I think 15, at least 1,600 square feet, something like that. They're smaller homes.
It's sure trying out with the team this weekend.
One.
All right, thank you. Jeff Bird.
Yep.
Is that your name here to speak on citizens' comments, but you're going to be during this item here? Is that from? Yeah. You'll be able to speak during that item.
Perfect. Sounds good.
There you go. Council ready?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, being 6 o'clock, we will call this meeting to order. If all would please rise for the invocation by Pastor Sam Scheffler from Bethel Methodist Church, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads together. On this day, just one day after celebration of the declaration of this nation's independence, we are prayerful that many have once again considered the freedoms we enjoy. Some of us have been reminded of our pledge to the flag that symbolizes what has been brought together under God. We do not use your name in vain to make that pledge, for we're convinced that what we enjoy and celebrate has been given by you. We're also convinced that we have every opportunity to abuse the privileges given to us. As we acknowledge these things, we bow before you at this moment to humbly seek your direction in the responsibilities which those privileges carry. As you provide that guidance, make us bold in following those ways. An important part of our responsibility is found in living in community. We thank you for this city of Robinson in which we live. We thank you for these that have given of their time in the interest of this city. Help them to serve with that spirit of humility and boldness. Guide in the issues discussed this evening. If mundane, provide a sense of the importance of even what seems minor. If contentious, provide a calming influence to the discussion that is required. We offer these prayers to you, God. I pray them in the name of Jesus Christ, the one that has fully revealed and expressed your faithfulness towards all human beings. May we be found responsive to that expression. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Rogers,
Here.
Holland,
Here.
Ectorling,
Here.
Stivner, McLean, here, Burks,
Here.
and Janice.
Here.
Having a quorum, moving to item 5, citizens' comments. First up, Ms. Vaughn with chamber announcements.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, General Public. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak tonight on behalf of the Greater Robinson Chamber of Commerce. I bring you greetings from them and would like to share announcements from the Chamber with you. Our annual membership banquet is coming up very quickly, July 21st. The last day to purchase tickets is next Friday. So if you haven't purchased tickets yet and you want to attend, then you may want to purchase them pretty quickly. We're also looking for silent auction items. If anybody has any silent auction items they would like to donate to the chamber for this event, we will have a silent auction during the event, and that's always a fun time as well. Our next quarterly luncheon will be August the 4th at Tage and Cajun, and we have some wonderful speakers lined up for that. Elaine Botello from something.
Patillo Brown and Hill?
I'm sorry.
Is it Patillo Brown and Hill?
No, no. It's Leadership Institute. Yeah, that's what it is. Thanks for the reminder. And we also have a business spotlight each time during our quarterly networking luncheons. And so there's opportunity for different businesses within the community to speak out about their business during that time. We will also be having our next business after hours will be August the 9th at 5 to 7. It will be held at K4 Construction's office, but it will be sponsored by ADEX Insurance, Adam Kozowski. And then our first responder appreciation reception will be Saturday the 10th of September at Fire Station number 1. And we will also be having a business after hours at Moon River Ranch on September the 27th. So those are all opportunities that we'd like you to take advantage of. And we would also like to invite the city to begin sending a liaison to our board meetings. So if you have somebody that would work in that position that would be able to come once a month and visit with us during our board meetings to carry back information from the chamber and bring us information from the city, that would be wonderful. We would appreciate that so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Jolene Ecklenberg?
Hi, I'm Julie Eichenberg from 504 Cheddar Lane, and I'm here just to thank you. You hear all the grievances and hardly getting appreciation that you did do our paving on our streets on Baker and Chattel, and there are places that really needed to have some repairs because of real dip, cutting of tires and everything. So I just want to thank you for putting this on the schedule and that it was done, and I appreciate now it's a smooth street to be driving on. So thank you.
You're welcome.
B. Sebastian?
I was gonna have to come speak.
Well, I'll tell you, I see you're talking about zoning item number 9 here. There will be a
Yeah,
public hearing.
and my interest is twofold. You know, all the reading I've done, it talks about where this development on Grieg is going to happen and how big it is. So there's two questions. One is, there was something in all the write-ups about not being able to put all the houses that would plan to be put in that 49 acres. Have y'all addressed that? And then the other thing is, has the city looked at what infrastructures are gonna be needed to support what I've heard numbers 200 to 400 houses? So mine's an informational question and how I can find out answers to that.
During
And
this-
if y'all don't have them, that's fine.
Yeah, during the public hearing, we're not going to be able to answer any questions, or excuse me, during citizens' comments. We're about to open a public hearing on this item, which citizens are going to be able to speak it on it as well, and then we'll be able to address some of those questions.
Let's talk about it then.
Okay, thank you. Any other person in the audience like to speak about any non-agenda items? Item 6 is under presentations. Shepherd's Heart Robinson Food Pantry Report and Ice Cream Social.
Good evening. We have plenty of ice cream back here. I've seen one bowl, so please.
Thank you.
I'm John Johansson, Chairman of the Board of Shepherd's Heart Robinson Food Pantry. Board members, Jerry Stokes, Vice Chair. Treasurer is Paula Diedrich. Acting Secretary is Jolene. It was Terry Schwartz and Karen Poppin. Our Executive Director is Celeste Hickey. This is our annual report to the City of Robinson. We at Shepherd's Heart Robinson Food Pantry are very grateful for the never-ending support we receive from the City of Robinson. Without this support, we could not operate because of the ever-rising cost that we face in this day-to-day operations. We originally started at the end of 2012, but did not get in full operation until January 2013. At the beginning, in order to gain support from Central Texas Food Bank, there in Austin, Texas, USDA, Feeding America, and Feeding Texas, we had to prove that were serving a minimum of 25 families. We started with the support of 6 local churches, the Robinson Ministerial Association, and of course the City of Robinson's support. We have added other churches to that number. Some are even outside of Robinson. These churches are very important to, excuse me, these churches are very important as they supply most of our sustaining income and some from private sources. At the height of COVID, we were able to serve 300 families a couple of times. In most normal times, we were serving 50 to 80 families in a grocery store style setting. A family was limited to 20 items. Today, the COVID effect, we are serving 200 to 250 families per pantry distribution day. We think this number will grow. Today, we are using a drive-by model of distribution. Our normal hours are 10 to 12 noon, and first and third Saturdays of each month. We are experimenting with some summer hours right now, moving it back to 9 till 11, but officially it's still 10 to 12. We serve a number of families that we do, that are a lot of, can't read my own notes. We could never serve the number of families that we do in the allotted time to using the old grocery store model. Our distribution numbers July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 are as follows. We have served 4,734 families, 5,462 individuals, new clients through the year, 390. Pounds of food delivered this year, 402,390. That is approximately 85 pounds of food per family. This is much more food than per family than we used to allow. Pounds of food donated by our local HEBs, 85,964. A large portion of that is very important. A large portion of that is meat and very important to those we serve. We also receive a lot of other goods, personal care items, automotive products, over-the-counter drugs, diapers, both children and adult, and numerous other items from the Walmart Return Center. All of this would not happen were it not for the help of many volunteers, individuals, as well as several service organizations, the Civil Air Patrol, Robinson ISD, Robinson High School Special Education teachers, Robinson Lions Club, just to name a few. We owe our deepest gratitude to all of these mentioned, and those are too many to name. Again, thank you for the city of Robinson. Without your support, we would not be able to do what we do. The board, Shepherd's Heart Robinson Food Pantry, signed John Johansson, chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johansson. Let's give them a round of applause. That's an amazing. Can you tell us how the Shepherd's Heart compares to other food pantries around?
We're in the top 5, I know for sure. I believe that we are the 3rd largest in this area. Caritas and Shepherd's Heart Waco would be the numbers 1 and 2.
We are the largest all-volunteer food pantry. All the others have paid employees.
We are 100% volunteer.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, our next presentation is Margaret Summereve, Director for Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, founding member, award to the city of Robinson.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time tonight. I'm gonna just put this right here so everybody can look at it. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. In 2001, the city of Robinson passed a resolution to join with other cities working together for the benefit of all to form the city's aggregation power project to help cities save money on their electric bills. Fast forward, and the city's aggregation power project and the South Texas aggregation project became TCAP, the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, in 2011 with the same purpose, finding energy rates that saves its members money and in turn saves tax dollars. With 170 members, TCAP is the largest organization of its kind in Texas. We want to thank our founding members, those members that have been with us from the start and who have continued to be leaders in working together for savings. On behalf of the Board of Directors and myself, I want to present this to the City of Robinson as a thank you for your membership in the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our only consent agenda item is number 8, approved minutes from the previous meeting. Council have any questions or action?
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Rogers. We have a second. Second by Mr. Holland. Motion is to approve consent agenda item 8. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm giving Craig just a minute here. I think Justin was coming in straight off of an airplane to make this meeting.
It's dedication.
Yeah.
Now's your time to get ice cream.
Yes, if there is some ice cream in the back, somebody take a break, council, or
Already gone mine?
you did it, huh?
Are you working
You
on
ate
it?
mine for me.
No, I didn't. I go, are you working on it?
Misty, go get some ice cream.
Hmm.
I can't.
Yes. Okay, council, we're gonna, okay, we're gonna jump to item 11, waiting on our planning director to arrive. So item 11 is a public hearing. Conduct a public hearing, consider possible action on ordinance 2022-020, providing for amendments to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget to reflect appropriation transfers as outlined in Exhibit A of the ordinance. Public hearing opens at 6:18. Anyone in the public here to speak on this item? Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Okay. All right, so just briefly to give everybody an update on what the amended budget is. As we go through the year, certain things happen that are unexpected. Sometimes revenues change, expenses, things that you obviously can't plan for, things of that nature. So as we get through a little more than halfway through the fiscal year, we like to go back and see where are we on track with the budget and what changes, what things have changed. So what you have before you this evening, council, is the mid-year amended budget. And I'm just gonna go through each fund and kind of what the changes were. So for the general fund, the original budgeted total revenues were $6,876,535. The amended total revenues are $7,016,798. Those increases are mainly due to higher than originally projected sales taxes and higher than originally projected development-related fees. As far as the expenditures, the original budget expenditures were $7,781,995. The amended budget is actually a little bit lower. It's $7,742,581. Most of the changes were just line item changes within the departments. We had some things that went up. Our biggest increases we saw across multiple departments was fuel costs. You may have all noticed that fuel's gone up a little bit since October. And so we had to adjust for that for police, for streets, for the fire department. We do cover their volunteer fire department's fuel costs, things of that nature. The other was utilities, electric in particular. While we belong to TCAP, we have this really good rate as a result of the February 2021 freeze. If you followed that, there was a whole bunch of peak sale of electricity and all the power companies went into this really big hole. And so the state decided to issue debt to offset that. And so we're all kind of getting hit with that on top of our bills. And it hit us pretty, as a city, pretty large. We had to make up some of that cost in the short term. So we had some adjustments, so we were able to do some open positions and things like that. So the various changes are explained throughout the budget document, but the net effect is that the overall expenditures is down from the original budget. And the ending fund balance in the original budget was $4,367,587. That was what was projected this time last year as we did that budget. And the projected ending balance this time will be $4,973,329. And most of that increase is from, at the end of the when we do the budget, we're just guessing where we're going to end, and we ended the fiscal year with more revenue than we projected and fewer expenses, so we added to the fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. So that's the general fund. The utility fund, so we originally projected operating revenues of $8,623,422. That's been amended to $8,641,607. The increase is mainly due to sanitation fees from both new accounts and from the projected rate increase. As far as expenses, we originally budgeted $5 million for operating expenses. We budgeted $5,495,466. The amended budget is $5,498,738, so a little less than 4,000 more. Debt service is projected at $2,326,000, and we projected interest revenue just up a few $1,000s. So we're looking at an ending unallocated reserve originally of $6,024,176, and the amended budget changes that to $6,044,509. And then we also have an amendment in general fund capital projects, and that amendment is to add the Robinson Business Park roadway, which we have discussed. That has a total cost of $4 million, and as you're aware, we have entered into agreements with both the Waco Industrial Foundation and the McLennan County to contribute to that, with the Industrial Foundation contributing $1 million and McLennan County $500,000. So that would put the city's cost at $2.5 million. And then the last thing is in the hotel motel tax, and we budgeted $8,000 to use towards some of our software that we use for marketing the city and also for the festival, but since we're not going to be able to have the festival, we'll reduce that. But I did add, after we had our conversations about assisting the Greater Waco Sports Commission, I added $5,000 to cover the fourth quarter of this fiscal year. If you all want to make that contribution to them, that would be an amount of $5,000 to help cover their costs. They are working with the school district and things to bring some sporting events here to Robinson, but they bring a lot of people into McLennan County who benefit all of the city and the region through their efforts, so it does qualify under the hotel motel tax. And after the public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the budget.
That raise any questions to the public? Anyone want to speak on this item? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 6:25. Council questions, comments, actions?
We'll get back to the front of this. I motion to approve ordinance 2022-020, providing for the amendments to the fiscal year 21-22 budget to reflect appropriation transfers as outlined in Exhibit A of the
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-020. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to go back. There's ice cream back in the back if anybody wants to grab some. What's that? Oh, it's gone.
No, we put it in the freezer.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Thank you.
It can be pulled out.
All right. Now we're going back to item 9, a public hearing. Conduct a public hearing, consider approval of the application and possible action on ordinance 2022-018 of Jeff Bird with Tate Avenue Investors on behalf of Kevin Kinney for a zoning change from Ag and Rural Estate Districts to SF2 District on approximately 49.976 acres, known as tracts 12, 20, and 24, and another tract in the CO Campo survey, approximately addressed at 726 North Old Robinson Road and in the 700 block of Gregg Drive. Open the public hearing at 6:26 with Mr. French presenting.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The subject site is south of Hunton Estates Edition, north of Gregg Drive, and has some frontage to North Old Robinson Road. The property is primarily zoned agricultural district today. There is some rural estate along the frontage to North Old Robinson Road. The requested rezoning is to SF2, single-family residential. That is a minimum lot width of 80 feet, minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet. The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 in favor, none opposed, recommended rezoning to the SF1 district rather than the SF2 district that the applicant requested. The SF1 district is a minimum lot size of 12,000 square feet with minimum lot widths of 100 feet. So here's the subject site highlighted in blue. And go to the next slide. This is our future land use map out of the 2034 Community Visions Comprehensive Plan, which designates the property for low density residential, which rezoning to SF1 or SF2 would both be consistent with that low density residential land use category. And that's this is our current zoning map showing the darker green being the agricultural district, and then the lighter green being rural estate. To the north, the Hunton Estates is a planned development with the underlying zoning of SF3 immediately abutting the civic site, and then further into the Hunton Estates is SF2, and then you have SF2 along Gregg Drive and SF1 along Gregg Drive, and then SF2 on the east side of North Old Robinson Road, which is the lighter yellow. We do have the applicant here, and I'll be available to answer any questions of the council. Because the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend approval of the requested SF2, it would require a supermajority vote of 3/4 of the council to approve the SF2 rezoning request. We did receive notices returned in support and in opposition that were provided to you in your packets.
Can you explain a little bit, because I bet there's quite a few people here that, as I read the opposed comments regarding traffic assessments and infrastructure and whatnot, and can you discuss, maybe head off some of those questions pertaining to development?
So typically at the time of rezoning, we're looking at land use and the consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. At the time of plating, which this development would have to go through a preliminary plating process and a final plating process, that's when we would get into the engineering as far as drainage, transportation, utilities, and ensuring that all those are adequate for the development and does not take anything away from the existing development. There was also concern about Robinson ISD having the capacity for more families, which I'm not aware of that, but that was a concern that was mentioned at P&Z. And I think just density in general, it was a concern from the general community.
We have anyone in the audience want to speak on this item? Come on, Jim.
Did you say if anybody wanted to speak in favor of it?
Hold on, just say, yes, Mr. Bird's going to step up.
Okay.
The applicant.
Get up here for me. Hello, my name is Jeff Bird. I live at 9931 Rock Creek Road, Waco. I'm here just to address those same concerns that Mr. French just talked about. One of them was the road, specifically Old Road. I think the biggest concern was it being congested by adding SF2 to this site. My understanding is there's a road coming from 35 to Gregg Drive that will alleviate a lot of that traffic. Is that still something that's happening? As far as you know?
I think you talked the industrial foundation property road. Half of it's about to be built.
Yeah.
The second half will depend on how that property develops.
How that
So
develops
we'll
out,
go
sure.
halfway from the highway.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. I think that will help, you know, over time with some of that congestion, because that development isn't going to happen tomorrow either. You know, we're 18 to 24 months from it getting probably kicked off in another 4 to 5 years from completion. It'll take time to roll out that subdivision. The other one was the water and sewer capacity was one, and I wrote them all down here. There were 5 that were concerned about road, 1 about water and sewer, 5 about the school, 7 on, well, really 9 on flooding and detention, and 1 was cost to taxpayers. So the water and sewer, obviously we work closely with the city engineers to ensure that services are not hindered to the residents of Robinson, and in some cases could be improved. For example, we'd loop the water from Gregg to Old Road, which would help with the consistency of the performance of that water pressure for that area. And as it relates to capacity, my understanding is the city has that capacity for this. Regarding the schools, I did, because that was a big one as well, I did talk to Dr. Hope personally and asked him the same question: would we, would this overwhelm the schools? And here's what he told me. He said, he tells anyone else, he's going to teach the kids that show up. He and his school board recognize that growth is part of a great community and they prepare for it. So he expects more growth coming. Flood and detention, I put these together. They were separate, but I put them together. This was the biggest concern at the zoning hearing that night. Multiple people were concerned about the worsening flooding that by this development. Between the city engineers and private engineers and the ones we would hire, we would hope that we would improve the issue of the drainage and flooding, but we certainly have no intentions of making it worse. For example, instead of on-site detention, we could possibly look at some off-site improvements with the city around that might help with whatever flooding may be happening there. Of course, all plans would have to go through the city engineers before we could proceed. So I see this being a concern that will be carefully considered and monitored. As far as cost to taxpayers, there's no cost to taxpayers. As a matter of fact, we plan to add to the tax base for the citizens of Robinson in there. So that's kind of the start of some of those concerns we heard at the zoning that night. And we just honestly weren't quite prepared for some of those comments. So we did a little bit of homework, called some people, and got some more information. Does that help?
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else for this item? Name and address, Mr. Kenny.
I'm Kevin Kenny. I live at 728 North Old Robinson Road, which is part of the development. Quite frankly, I was appalled at the opposition to this project at the zoning commission meeting. The reason I say that, one of the items, of course, was the drainage, and that was one of the first things I told Brett Myrick was the problems with the drainage, because I've lived there all my life, right there on Gregg Drive, and I'm very familiar with the drainage. But if you're concerned about drainage, you need to get behind this project 100%, because the engineers that design these projects are schooled in stormwater drainage control. And just like Jeff said, the city engineers are not going to pass anything that's going to cause a problem. There's about 12 pages in the statutes of the state of Texas laws concerning water. You can't put any more water on somebody that wasn't there already, and like I say, that's all controlled. And then somebody said they didn't want Robinson to grow. Well, this is exactly what Robinson needs, is a new development like this, because they've got new sewer lines, new water lines, new streets, very little maintenance that the city has to do, and the dadgum new houses are going to pay a whole lot more in taxes than the older houses. So I don't want to denigrate the sewer system too much, because it's still working. But I was 11 years old when they put that thing in, and I watched them put it in, and over the years, what I've learned is they didn't do it right. I mean, all they did was dig into the clay, lay that clay pipe, didn't bed it in sand, gravel, or nothing. And the current weather conditions we're having right now will break a class 900 PVC pipe. They don't tell her what it's doing to that clay pipe. But, I mean, if we don't grow, you can just plan on your real estate taxes doubling again, because we're going to have to pay for all the improvements and infrastructure we've got. But, so it is. I mean, we can get our taxes so high, nobody's going to come out to Robinson, and then that'll darn sure control growth. But, now, when it comes to school, I'm qualified to speak for the school. I served 9 years on the school board, and they've got one class. The last year I was on the board, it was the 5th grade class. was kind of bulging and overpopulated, so it should be the 6th grade class now. And if we don't sell houses to all 6th graders, we don't have a problem with the school. This is exactly what the school needs. It's a shot in the arm. I mean, the school receives a big majority of their funds from the ADA, or average daily attendance, from the state. And the more kids they got, the more money they bring in. So I can tell you right now, the school is just chomping at the bit to have something like this occur. I don't know what else to tell you other than I did make this comment to the Planning and Zoning Commission because they were asking for single family 2, and whoever sat on the Planning and Zoning Commission, he was, well, I'd like to see it single family 1. And I said, you know, a developer or builder can only satisfy a market. He cannot make a market. There's no way he can make a market. He can only build what the people want to buy. And with the interest rates going up, single family 1 may not be the way to go. Yeah, we'd love to have all 100-foot lots, but you know, it's $700 a foot to develop that addition, and 15 feet, that's a chunk of change. A lot of questions were asked, well, what are we going to do about this, what are we going to do about that? And quite honestly, they can't spend the money to answer all those questions. They're not going to go out and spend a couple $100,000 if this thing doesn't change from agricultural to single family. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And there's questions I've got too, but I know they're not going to be answered until somebody puts a pencil to the project. And that's not going to happen until we get it from agriculture to single family. And that's the best I can tell you, I guess. It's in y'all's hands, but I got a lot of faith in you. Thank you.
Anyone else for this item? Against? Anyone want to speak against?
Good evening, I'm Tammy Hector. I live at 769 Greek Drive. A little bit of my property, a corner of this property is in front of my yard, the very corner. But I just wanted to say, I don't want to feel like I want to say that I'm against it. I support what the zoning committee recommended for it to be a SF1. I support Robinson growing. I think we've done great things in our city to the great new playground. Our schools are good. But I think it comes down to me for a quality of life. That's a street in an area where I've lived in my home for 20 years. I've lived in Robinson since I was 10. And part of what attracts people here is that it is kind of an ag, rural suburb of Waco. And I think there are areas in Robinson that would support an SF2. I just think this particular area, being where Old Robinson Road is one of our main thoroughfares, and Greek Drive is the main thoroughfare between Hewitt and Robinson. And I live in my front yard, so I know how the traffic has already increased on Greek Drive. And on more frequent occasions, sometimes this isn't all the time, but I can see it happening more if we have an SF2 neighborhood where there's more homes. I've had traffic where at that stop sign down Greek, it's come to where it's stopped where cars are in front of my house on certain occasions. So I'm supportive of the SF1, mainly because there's just fewer homes in such a congested area. I do think Old Robinson Road and Greek Drive, they're not really built right now to support the extra homes that an SF2 would provide there. And like I said, Robinson has so much land in so many areas that would be a better fit for SF2, but I just think this particular area is better for SF1. And for you as council members, me as a citizen, what I want you to here is that to me, this is a quality of life. These are the reasons we live out in Robinson, for it to be a little bit more spread out, for us not to feel like we're so congested. I welcome growth, but I think we can have both. I think we can support growth and great families coming to our great schools without having to add this congestion to a really, when I'm at that stop sign in the morning for school, it's hard to get out with already the school congestion down Old Robinson Road trying to get off Greek Drive. So I can't imagine how many of our more homes in SF2 would add to that traffic just in that little corner of Greek. And right now the roads are not built to support anymore. They're not even built to support the traffic that we have right now. So, but I know it's a difficult decision, but I just would appreciate you thinking of the citizens and follow the recommendation of your own zoning committee, because it was discussed thoroughly that night. So I appreciate your time.
Anyone else like to speak against this item? We'll close the public hearing at 6:44. Mr. French, again, I just want to reiterate to the public, especially to the neighbors, the concerns that involve traffic, infrastructure, drainage. That would occur with this SF1 development as well, and those studies have to be done and presented to the city, and the city engineer has to review those and make sure that, so just SF2 and SF1 doesn't cause any difference in what math, or that'd be a little different math and
That is
calculation.
correct.
But the same studies have to be performed,
That's
basically.
correct. Yes.
Do we have a trigger for TIAs on interior streets?
No, it's just at the call of the city engineer.
And if you could go back to the map and pull that up. Show the existing zoning around it. So Hunting above it is an SF3?
This portion of Hunting Estates here is a base zoning is of SF3, and then this is SF1. All of it is within a planned development district,
And you got Dury to the right, which is SF2, right?
Here, Dury Edition, it's actually a patio home. It's much smaller than SF3.
Was it already 60-foot lots?
They're less than 60 here. SF3 would be 60. However, a lot of the homes, the market at the time of this section of Hunting Estates, a lot of them combined lots in order to build larger homes. That was the trend at that time.
And then this is WIF property to the left, which is commercial, correct?
That is correct.
Which, I don't know how that lays out and how close to be industrial and what our buffer is there. Usually in zoning, you want buffers between zonings as you get from industrial, commercial, higher density to lower density.
Yeah, but you may be looking at a vegetative buffer there based on some of the sites that some of the different companies looking at constructing over there. They may want to move into part of that property and have some kind of a green space between it and the residential developments. Commercial there really isn't necessarily the smartest use. It's kind of off the beaten path and really hard to get people to look at that as a destination.
What's the volume difference?
Yeah, Mr. Bird, have you got a study on what the volume difference is between your SF2 and a 1 would be? What do you lose if you go to 1?
So, well, the difference is what, 12,000 feet on SF1, 9,000 square feet on SF2.
Yeah, how many lots?
Well, we haven't really gotten that far, but the line, our initial one's probably going to be between 120 and 130 lots. But here's the deal: is some of those lots, the SF2s are minimum, is where we're at. A lot of a lot of what we're coming up with are gonna be larger premium lots too. Because we have to cross a gas line on this side, you're only gonna cross it one time according to Brett
I
Miley.
think you've got a picture
He's
that
not
you
here,
showed him.
he's floating in Alaska somewhere, but,
Yeah.
those will be large, almost, I think, what did we say, half acre, 1 acre? You know, so it's not gonna be all covered up in SF2, but SF2 will be the minimum. Our intent was you can't, to drop it down low enough where you can still have some side entry garages. Keep them big enough where you can't have side entry garages, but you can't do it on SF3, on SF2, well, good, but I mean, on SF, we can go to 83, 85-foot wide lots instead of just 80. But like I said, some of the other lots where the gas line crossing over that, they're gonna be much, much larger. There may be some, you can kind of see it's a funky shape, so it's not like it's gonna just, everything's gonna lay in there like a glove. So some of that's gonna have to be absorbed, with larger lots. It's about 25% difference between the SF1 and SF2. So if everything was equal, we'd have 25% more lots in there, right? But that's just it. We're not gonna have 25% because some of them are already gonna be SF1 qualified. It won't phase it in as well. I mean, all this won't be done, in one fell swoop, so it'll probably be phased in.
Bigger picture down, Greg, Mr. Lewin, Mr. French, bigger picture down, Greg. So what are we looking at on future growth and zonings around there? Because there's concern about traffic. So are we gonna, we already know that Greg is a street that we're gonna have to improve and grow and connect into 77 at some point. When we look at a picture like this and we're looking at one section of land, what are we looking at around us for other potential issues?
The long-term plan with the development of the Waco Industrial Foundation and the creating of the tax increment reinvestment into zone number 1 is to bring the road through the Industrial Foundation property from the service road to Gregg. That'll be 48-foot wide roadway. Where it intersects with Gregg and goes to the west-southwest, the plan is to improve that comparably to a much wider road, taking it almost to Harris Village and then turning and cutting back north to 35 and connecting there with the loop under is on 35 to try to keep all that commercial traffic moving there. Then we would be improving Gregg from where the connection is, which is just south of that gas transmission station. From there up, we would improve Gregg to be more geared to the residential. We would actually not want to encourage commercial traffic to go that way, so we would not widen it as wide as we could going the other direction, just because we don't want tractor trailers hauling loads of stuff coming out of there and going toward the residential subdivision. So
And that'll likely be marked for truck traffic to make
yes,
the right.
yeah, we
and
would
head
direct
north.
truck
Heads
traffic, and we can pass ordinances to prohibit it, but we want to construct it also, just to where if you're a truck driver, you're not gonna want to go left, you're gonna want to go right. So, but the plan is as part of that. Now that's, the first phase of the road is under design right now. Depending on how the WIF property develops, that's going to kind of drive it. Just with the announcement that we're doing the part of the road, the interest in that property has increased. There's already 2 lots under 55 acres under contract. We're a finalist for a site that's looking at anywhere from 166 to 207 acres. There's another company that's supposed to be coming in a week or 2 for a site visit. So as that develops, it creates a tax increment. That'll create the funding for all of that. So it could happen 3 years from now, 7 years from now. It's just going to depend on how fast the Waco Industrial Foundation property develops. Now this site is not part of the TERS, so that any tax revenue generated from this will not go into the TERS. All of the property that's in the TERS, 70% of the city's money, 75% of the city's money, 70% of the county money, all goes into that fund to fund those infrastructure improvements. So they will actually be funded from the development. So the majority of the improvements on Gregg are going to come from TERS funds. But there is a plan to develop that And we've actually had some preliminary engineering and things, and unfortunately, the prices are going way up the last 2 years. But it's definitely something we're looking at. And as that industrial foundation property develops, we're going to have to be ready to move on that.
I have a question.
Sorry, we're not in a public hearing at this time, though.
Oh, okay. I'll talk.
Mr. Janice, do you have any comments or questions or feelings towards, this is gonna take a unanimous vote for SF2. Just wanna hear council's
Well, I was kind
thoughts.
of leaning toward what planning and zoning voted on, but after hearing what he said, that some of these lots are gonna be different sizes, you know, they're not all gonna be the same size due to the pipeline coming through and the configuration of the properties, and some of them will be SF1s also, or SF2s, so I'm leaning towards
Because of the unique shape and how you're gonna have to lot it and plot it accordingly to that, is there, I know we'll have to switch it and make it like strictly an SF1 or an SF2, but can you put like on the zoning part of the land, could you put like a contingency that's like 30% can be an SF2 and then your majority of your lots would be an SF1? So you know, because once you change it, the builder could do.
So we couldn't do that tonight with any action tonight.
Right.
There's a couple different ways that could be done. One would be the applicant changing their request to a planned development district and identifying within that planned development district which portion will be SF1, which portion will be SF2. That's going to entail them identifying how the subdivision is going to lay out, how the drainage is going to work with that layout, how the utilities are going to flow with that layout.
Which is money before it's approved.
Correct. And similarly, another way to identify different portions of the entire 49 acres as SF1, SF2 would be to delineate by meets and bounds description where the SF1 zoning would be and where the SF2 straight rezoning would be located.
So you can just put like a percentage on it that says like, a certain percentage you're allotted for SF2.
With a concept brief, which is instead of a development plan, you could have a rezoning to a planned development district with a concept brief, which is a prerequisite, or not a prerequisite, sorry, which is a precursor to then following up with the development plan. The concept brief could identify that and be acted upon by the council to just verbally describe a percentage. But to come up with that percentage, it may be kind of just a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Without the engineering and the studies being done.
Right.
Mr. Burns?
I'm with the zoning and planning I guess in their favor for the SF1. It's such a nice piece of land, property. I would just hate to see FF2, just a row of those homes. I know there's workarounds with the right-of-ways there and stuff, but it just belongs, in my mind, to SF1. Keep the homes off each other, keep it matching what's surrounded the properties and on Greg and Old Robson there. I give the residents a little bit what they're asking for too, and keeping less homes, a little bit less traffic, and it just belongs wider open spaces on that property.
Mr. Holland?
What is this, Hunting Estates? Is that SF1 or SF2?
So it's a planned development district, and the southern, if you go to the next slide, the southern portion is SF3 base zoning or underlying zoning in that planned development, And then the northern portion, Hunt Drive, this portion of Hunt Drive is SF1. There's not any SF2 for whatever reason in Hunt Estates edition. Now SF2 we have in this yellow on the east side of North Old Robinson Road and on the west side here. And then this darker yellow is SF1.
What's the setback difference between SF1 and SF2, the side yard setback?
There is no difference. There is a combined side yard of 15 feet with no less than 5 feet on either side. So often you have like 5 feet on one side, minimum 10 feet on the other side, or a combination of 7.5 and 7.5.
That's the same for both.
It's the same for both, yes.
So as far as the houses in there, they wouldn't be any tighter together. You might have more lots, but the separation between houses would be the
Separation would
same
be
for
the
SF1
same.
and SF2.
The lots would be wider for
Yeah.
SF.
But the house could be bigger,
Correct.
so.
A house would have to be bigger in SF1.
Was it 1,800?
1,800 square foot, whereas SF2 is
You can't afford one,
1,600
SF1
square
on
foot.
that lot today. You can't put 18 square feet. You're gonna have to build them bigger. That's what I'm calculating now. On SF1, you're talking about $625,000 lots. It's about 2,500 square foot. It's gonna go on those SF1s. SF2s are gonna be about 2,200 square feet. SF3s are gonna get you bumped down into that 1,800 square feet. So that's your $400,000 homes. So SF1, I mean, you're $600,000 houses.
Which is what's comparable right north of it, right? in Hutton.
So what's unique about Hunting above it is they have homes in there for more than that, on smaller lots. But that was due to, I believe, an availability issue.
Yeah, I think some in there, they've bought multiple lots to
Combined.
There's a couple of houses in there that are huge.
My thought is I would not, as a developer, builder, or an owner, wouldn't want my $600,000 house backed up to the commercial. I'd want a $400,000 buffer in there in today's market. Development standpoint, SF2 makes all the sense. It fits the area, other than the existing neighbors that have the larger tracts in rural estate and ag. It's a buffer to the commercial. From the neighbor standpoint, fully get it. You don't want more houses. I understand that. Less traffic. But it takes all 6 to overturn, so. Mr. Rogers?
I think I'm gonna defer the question.
You're deferring, huh?
And my apologies, folks, I got a list. So I've always viewed my role in council as to listen to citizens and take that input and act on that. That's job number one. But I do want to play a little bit of devil's advocate. And I have a few questions for everyone who was in opposition just to consider. There's a lot of opposition on this one. It always weighs heavy on how I vote. But so the question is, to what end? So recently, we've had another development not even make it to council because of opposition. To what end? It seems like that's kind of the temp of the city is we are opposing growth right now. And I certainly understand some of those concerns. But I also have to say, part of my job is to make sure we don't walk off a cliff too. We can't just deny everything based on the fact that we want it to remain agriculture. I don't think that any citizen has a right to tell the neighbor, hey, you got to keep ag because that's what I bought next to, and I want to see a pretty pasture. So, and that's been kind of a theme going for a while on a lot of the opposition.
So to what end? We deny this when we say we don't want to develop it. We're going to find ourselves in a bigger hole down the road, bigger one than we have out now on our streets. We do need funding to pay for infrastructure. So the question on infrastructure, Old Road and North, those neighborhoods are some of the ones that we're spending a lot of time and money on right now, whether it's sewer, water, or streets, a lot of money going into that. So my question on that is, do you want to pay for it, or do you want these guys to pay for it? Because this development can spur a lot of that funding. Some of the flooding concerns, they can pay for it. And that's pretty simple. Also, the tax revenue that comes in from this development could pay for Old Road development. That's not a bad way to do it. Do you want to pay for it all, or you want some help? So that's the other thing to consider. The other one is a buffer zone. So the mayor's mentioned a couple of times, but you guys know that we're chasing heavy industry to develop that 635 acre drop behind you. You might be more interested in having a buffer between you and it. I mean, can you imagine a building as tall as Amazon in your backyard? That's a possibility. That's a real possibility. So having 20, 30, 40, 50 homes behind you, whatever that number comes to be, to buffer that, might not be a bad gig either. Just some thoughts. The mayor also brought up cost per homes. Gosh. I don't think I could buy a new home in Robinson if it's SF1. I could, 600,000 enough for SF1 is the.
Well, that size lot, mostly you're seeing SF2 80-foot size lots, 82 to 85 foot.
I know that, I don't know if I could pay the tax bill on that. That's a real thing. We're all feeling the tax burden right now. We have to have growth. Without growth, we die. Without growth, we're carrying a bigger burden on these infrastructure improvements that still need, you guys still need sewer improvements and road improvements. That has to happen if you live in this area. The question is, do you want to pay for it all by ourselves, or do we go get a little bit of help? So those are just things to consider. I mean, I'm not against SF2. My first home in Robinson was SF3. It's the prettiest neighborhood in town. It's the nicest neighborhood in town. I'm sorry if you got a real nice house. I don't mean to be offensive, but you know, Harris Village out in Integrate, I love it. But it's SF3. It's small. But you talk about a tight-knit community. I've defended it several times. But anyway, just playing a little bit of devil's advocate, I think that there's always an unintended consequence that we don't see with every decision we make. And sometimes we wish what we could have had. So just my thoughts on that.
Very good comment.
Marlon, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Jimmy does. Jimmy speaks.
I was asked if we could go into executive session on this, but I'm pretty sure we cannot. No. I guess
You could only do that to confer with the attorney, and the attorney's not here.
So the $1 million literally dollar question. What if you go SF1?
Well, it goes back to, y'all were bringing it up about affordability, and I didn't read this up there, but I made a little note about it. Just a year ago, it took 24% of a person's living wage to buy a home. That was their home payment each month, was 24% of their income. It's now at 31.5. So, it's getting to a point where you can't, I understand, I like the big lots too. We can still get things built right, cost-wise, it'd be nice, but not a lot of $600,000 to $800,000 starter homes out there that I know of.
Yeah, that's
It's hard to find jobs, and incomes aren't keeping up, clearly, just the affordability. So, we're trying to still put something very, very nice out there. And we're not gonna solve the affordability problem by putting SF2 up here. I get that, but we can help a little bit. And that's really all we're trying to do, is just get it into an affordable range where we say affordable, 400,000, 5 years ago, we thought that was just the affordable. But that's kind of, like you said, that's kind of the ballpark we're in.
Will there be an HOA in this development?
So, there could be for the detention, depending on how that lays out, whether we do it on site or we do help with the city stuff on some improvements, down the road with some control with the flooding. That's still up in the air, but we will do something. If we have detention on site, more than likely we'll have something that will take care of that, so it's not a nuisance afterward.
I mean, I like the idea of mixed usage as far as different SF1, 2, and 3,
Me
but
too.
I honestly have a hard time asking somebody to put a SF1 on a lot, just the cost. I mean, these people aren't going to be coming from Robinson to buy a $600,000 home. That's going to be somebody coming in from someplace outside of this area, and likely you see the floods coming from outside the state. That's another big thing to consider. You want that. I mean, nobody in Robinson that I'm aware of is going to go drop $600,000-$700,000 tomorrow.
Much like Hunting Estate too, if you go SF2 with this, and the market demands it, and everybody wants $800,000 houses, there you go, you buy two lots, and get after it. That way, I just think we're in a turning tide right now. Cost. So that's why we're asking for the SF2, and the same for us. I mean, he said $700 a foot. Somebody did, well, I think they're off. I think it's $800 a foot to put in roads, infrastructure, curbs, and gutters, and storm drains. So
It's gone way up since January of 21.
Yeah.
Because we're doing a bunch of projects around the city, and it's crazy how much concrete's up, 65%, 70% over early 21. And steel prices, with oil prices high, asphalt's high right now. It's just, it's infrastructure, pipe when you can get it. And everything's a challenge.
Well, like I said, we're asking for SF2, but there will be some that are bigger than that. We're just asking for the minimum on that end of it, but I mean, it's going to change a little bit upwards from there on some of those. They have to be just because they have to be.
Mr. French, can you enlighten and remind council as to if there is a denial of this request, what does that trigger?
Certainly, without Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation or approval of the SF2, it would take 6 out of the 7 council seats to approve the SF2 zone.
And if that denies, the applicant can reapply when?
After 6 months, the applicant can reapply for SF2, but there would be no delay for the applicant reapplying for any other rezoning request.
If the council doesn't have the 6 votes for the SF2, can they take action on SF1? That's what the recommendation was?
Yes, that is correct. And that would just be a simple majority of the council for SF1.
And I think that goes to the property owner and the developer. It's a unique situation because P&Z recommended something different. You have the option, I guess, to go both ways.
But also approving SF1 could also kill the development. That the financial burden, I guess.
Well, you have the developer and you have the property owner, so I think the question is, well, the developers that can't, with the property owner still want.
And there's no way to motion for multiple use. SF1, SF2.
No.
Not in this. If P&Z had a recommendation.
You'd have to divide the property in. And again, this is a unique piece of property. I mean, it would almost make sense to do a planned development, but unfortunately with planned development, you have to put so much money into the engineering aspects to know how to lay it out. That's, most developers aren't gonna wanna throw that kind of money at something on the off chance they might get the zone. You're talking about, I'm guessing probably just based on, we do $30,000 worth of engineering just to do the planned development requirements. And then if you get denied, that's $30,000 you've spent.
It's over.
Well, to totally engineer the whole project, I'm just talking about the engineering for the planned development. So, if you get the zoning approved, then it makes sense to do the engineering to do all the design. But I don't know too many people want to throw $30,000 gamble on the table to try to get something rezoned. That's a pretty tough sell. You know, if it's something you're really confident, but
Is this the exact wording of the motion from planning and zoning? Because the applicant in the agenda item was for SF2.
That's the item we have before us.
So did P and Z deny with the stipulation, or how did that wording happen?
No, their recommendation for SF1, approval of SF1, is a denial for SF2.
So they can approve something that the applicant didn't apply for.
As long as it's more restrictive and less intense. That, for example, they couldn't recommend SF3 because it's smaller lots, smaller houses, less restrictive, more intense, and we did not provide notices for that. But if they wanted to recommend downzoning for what was noticed, then they could do that, and that's what they have to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Kenny, a question for you. Can you hear me? Question. If you cannot get SF2, do you want SF1?
You know, that is not a concern of mine. I'm just saying that, you know, please don't hamstring these guys by making them.
But there's action about to occur, so I'm curious, if you do not get SF2, would you as a landowner want it to SF1 tonight?
Well, it doesn't make any difference to me, really. I mean, I live right there next to it, so, you know, I got a 2,000 square foot house. So SF2 is gonna be basically the same as everything else, I guess. But, I'm just asking y'all to give them the leeway and the option to design it where they can and fit everything where it needs to be fit. Because if you say SF1, they may come up 50 feet short down there at the property line, which means that they got to readjust everything at that point.
So if you like approved FS2.
So I am going to make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-018.
I second.
Approve for SF2?
Yes. So we have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-018. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Poll the council, please.
Janik?
Aye.
Rogers?
Aye. Mr. Rogers.
Holland?
Aye.
Ectorling?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
And Burks.
Aye.
Okay. The reason I asked, I didn't think that would pass.
Thank you.
So if it wouldn't have passed, I would have made a motion to an SF1. All right, item 10, conduct a public hearing and consider possible action approving ordinance 2022-019 and ordinance amending ordinance 2018-006, the zoning ordinance for the city of Robinson, Texas.
Mayor, members of the council, the Planning and Zoning Commission met 7 times to workshop this ordinance draft in 2021, and then they held a public hearing to make their recommendation to the city council to approve a ordinance amending the zoning ordinance. The council then met and discussed the request multiple occasions, and tonight we're having the public hearing to actually consider the adoption of what has resulted from those workshops and discussions that the P&Z and the council have had. Much of the amendments are to address actual concerns from the development community and citizens. And so hopefully this is something that many developers will be looking forward to and proud of once approved. I'll be available to answer any questions of the council.
Mayor, did you open the public hearing? Did I miss that?
It is open at 7:18. Do we have anybody in the public to speak on this item? We'll close it at 7:19. It's been a while since I've seen your face. Questions for Mr. Lemon, or excuse me, or Mr. French?
Can we talk about the fences for a bit?
Mr. Rogers?
Did he
I
joke?
have
Did
nothing.
he joke
I have
about
nothing.
fence height? That's not a funny topic.
I read the entire
Break my
ordinance
heart.
Did
front to
Rogers
back.
say he has nothing?
Oh, yeah. Write this down.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jim?
I died on my sword tonight, guys. I got nothing on this.
How many meetings did we have on this? 5, 4, 5?
I lost count.
Mr. Holland? No question. Mrs. McLean?
None.
Mr. Byrd?
Nothing.
Mr. Janice?
sir.
What was that, Mr. Janice?
No, sir. I don't.
A motion?
Yes. I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2022-019, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-006, the zoning ordinance for the city of Robinson, Texas.
Second.
All right, motion is to approve ordinance 2022-019. All those, or excuse me, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Skipping item 11, which was previous business. Item 12, opening of bids for sale of .14 acres of land in Robinson, McLennan County, Texas, being Ocampo C Tract 11A at the north end of Stroud Street, MCAD property ID 157792, owned by the city of Robinson, with possible action awarding a bid seeking to purchase the property, which we did receive one bid. One.
Jeremy, was it you? Put your good one.
We'll open at 7:21.
Well, good thing you put it up for bid. Yeah. Just annihilated that envelope.
All right, we have a bid in received from 200 North Robinson Drive LLC for a bid price of $17,211.51, which they agreed to pay all costs of the sale. Inside other terms, city shall provide bidder with an invoice for the final payment, including the bid price and an itemization of all applicable costs related to the sale of the property being paid by bidder. Bidder shall make full and final payment expeditiously upon notification receipt of a detailed sales invoice. Sellers shall execute a mutually agreeable warranty deed conveying ownership of the property to bidder expeditiously upon receipt of payment. Bidder contact is David Brennan with Bill Haddock's Insurance Company. And this is just a listing. Okay, so we have a bid in at $17,211.51.
The minimum bid set by the thing was the appraised value of 8,600. McLennan appraisal district value of 8,600 plus closing, so the bid does exceed the minimum bid.
So, council, we have a decision whether we want to accept this bid and move forward with the sale of this property or reject.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid on north end of Stroud Street.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to accept the bid provided by 200 North Robinson Drive LLC in the amount of $17,211.51 for the sale of the .14 acres of land in Robinson, MCAD number 157792. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is this closed in 30 days or so? Or?
I don't think we
We need to send them an invoice.
Okay.
We'll get it, I'll send it all off the attorney tomorrow and get everything ball rolling.
Item 13, consider possible action approving a services agreement with Safe Built to supplement plan review, inspection services, and fire marshal services within the city of Robinson. Mr. Lemon or Mr. French?
Certainly, members of the council, this is an agreement like we have already with Bureau Veritas, and it's paid out only when we use their services. And what this service agreement provides us is an option to use Safe Built in lieu of Bureau Veritas. We currently do not have a building inspector on the city staff. We're looking at who's available to interview for that position now. However, without many qualified candidates, we're looking for the foreseeable future having to go with these service agreements to fulfill plan review and inspection services. So this is a little bit lesser rate with Safe Built than with Bureau Veritas, which might be of interest. Also, we're searching for a better feedback from the development community and in particular single-family residential builders in regards to customer service that they're receiving from the city through Bureau Veritas. So we're exploring the ideas of possibly having both services concurrently, or doing an all-out switch to Safe Built, or perhaps using Safe Built for single-family residential, using Bureau Veritas for commercial, or some kind of combination that we're still yet to determine. But at tonight's meeting, we're just asking that the council approve this service agreement, and we'll determine how best to utilize the service agreements we have available for our use.
Couple questions and concerns. So we get used to BV on inspections and processes. You gotta send plans into the city sends them off to BV for review currently?
It can be sent directly to Bureau Veritas, or it can be sent to the city, and then the city would forward it to Bureau Veritas. Now, one thing with the Safe Built agreement that Bureau Veritas does not provide is that they will utilize MyGov. The city will make a user account in the city's MyGov system, and Safe Built's inspectors will actually utilize that user ID in MyGov to perform their reviews. So it'd be very similar to what we had when we did have a on-staff inspector in regards to the use of MyGov.
So both BV and Safe Built would be there who can get to a project, or how do you determine who gets what?
I'll intervene. I think
Sure.
the discussions we've had is we're getting a lot of negative feedback about BV for the residential, and there's a little bit of cost benefit from some of the inspections through Safe Built. Also, Safe Built does use MyGov, whereas right now BV has their own. So what we have to do is we have to take everything from BV and manually enter it into MyGov, using up staff time, so it's really not practical. Of course, we have a lot of projects that are already on BV, so we're not going to switch those middle stream. They're going to finish construction with them. The discussion we've had is to look at moving all the residential to Safe Built once the contract's approved going forward, unless a builder wants to stay with BV. I think we can give them that option if they prefer to stay. But one of the things we are going to do with the budget is we are going to recommend some changes in rates, and we're also going to recommend it for commercial everything be 100% pass-through. The commercial development will pay all the inspection fees, and then we will give them the choice which of the two companies they want to select. But the hope is by having both of them, maybe it'll keep them both a little more customer friendly, because if they know they could lose some business, or if they're so big they don't care, then maybe they're not the best choice for us to move forward anyway. So,
Well, the bigger concern is one inspector. I mean, one company has to take one project. So you're developing a street, 20 houses going down it. Is it Safe Built down the street, or is it BV got the whole street? Or
Well,
is
I
it
think-
split up and you've got,
I think what we would want to do going forward is give Safe Build a try for new permits. But if a builder came in here and said, absolutely not, I want to stay with BV, then I don't know why we would deny him to stay with BV if that's what the builder wants to do.
The codes are the same regardless of who the inspector is. However, there will be some little nuances as far as how.
I mean, with third-party inspectors, you can have variability just from the same company. Depending on which
yeah, I would say
inspector.
we just finally started to train BV, where they
Like I
started
said,
to
we
train
can-
us more than us.
If any builders are more comfortable with BV, we can do it. BV is gonna cost us a lot more in the long term. So
Say, it was a headache, but
either we're gonna have to push the rates up a lot higher, or the taxpayers are gonna have to start picking up a much larger proportion of the development costs. Because while we still have the position listed, we're not getting, we push the salary up well above the average for this region and got 0 applicants.
So both of these companies will accept a professional services agreement. They don't have to be exclusive.
Correct.
Both companies. Sounds like a nightmare on your end, but
Well, right now, BV is kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, not if it's already a nightmare.
Because
Well,
them
it's
using
outsourced.
them
It's a
having their own
nightmare.
software and it not being compatible with our software, it's causing a lot of headaches.
yeah, it's 2 inspections every time. Get their report and city's report.
Somebody here at the city has to manually enter the city report.
You
Okay.
can fill in and do that for him, Bert?
I barely made it here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the service agreement with Safe Built.
Second.
Let's see how it goes.
All right. Motion is to approve the services agreement with Safe Built to supplement other services. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And we would not do this like a regular rotation where each permit that comes in, the next one goes to BV and the next one. Like I said, we'll get some feedback.
I think that needs to be a letter or email out to the people that are coming in
It may
and
be
give them
another-
the choice.
It may be another sit-down meeting with them, like, I think we did that with BB a while back, invited all the builders to come and meet.
That's just wonderful when the city keeps inviting you to new education.
Just trying to help.
Changing again.
Just trying to help.
What's in a bag?
Builders are grumpy.
No joke.
We get lots of complaining about BB.
Yeah, I understand.
Not too many people call up and tell us how great they are.
Inspectors got pretty tough skin, they got to.
Yeah, unfortunately, the ladies at the front desk who answer the phone don't have.
I think I
inspectors
made the
in.
mistake and made an error in saying you can't just build to what a building inspector sees. I remember that saying it in here, and I think BD took it to heart. They're good, I'd say that. Codes I didn't even know existed. All right, item 14, consider possible action approving an interlocal agreement between Region 8 Education Service Center and the City of Robinson. Oh, no. It's Sanchez.
You've been sitting over there patiently, just waiting to do this.
Looking forward to it all week. The Texas Education Code permits regional education service centers at the direction of the Commissioner of Education to provide cooperative purchasing services to assist school districts, colleges, and universities. And the Texas Government Code gives authority through an interlocal agreement to regional education service centers to provide cooperative purchasing services to all Texas state, city, and county government agencies. This is an interlocal agreement which will agree to provide cooperative purchasing services to the city of Robinson through a program known as TIPS, the Interlocal Purchasing System. This agreement just simply gives us another avenue to purchase things without having to bid it if it's that type of a purchase. So
Better pricing.
commodity doesn't even have a membership cost. We've got several different places listed that we already co-op with. The HGAC, Buy Board, Tarrant County, and I forgot about Texas Smart Buy and Sourcewell is another couple of agencies that we deal with. So.
Yep.
And this one came up because we found one dealership that has the trucks the utility department has that they can get, and this is the only cooperative they participate in.
Wow.
Because all the other trucks that we looked at ordering, either the price has gone way up or they're not going to be available until next year.
Seems like a no-brainer, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah? Make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Region 8 Education Service Center for the City of Robinson.
I'll second it.
Who's that?
John. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Region 8. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, consider possible action approving ordinance 2022-21, amending ordinance 2018-009 by increasing the rates for solid waste services.
Me?
Who got this? You got this?
I got this. So as you're aware, our contract allows once each year on the anniversary of the contract, which is July, for Waste Management to request an increase. Each of the previous years, they have made an increase request under the CPI, which council has approved. This year, they're making the request under the CPI and under the fuel cost surcharge provision of the ordinance. The fuel charge surcharge provision allows them to, once the price hits $3 based on the, I'm trying to read this because my iPad died. It's based on the U.S. Department of Energy weekly retail rates on diesel, highway diesel prices for the Gulf Coast. So, and once that price hits $3, they can request a 1% increase and then a 1% increase for each 25% increase of the fuel cost over $3. So the CPI increase that they requested was 5.44% based on the CPI from, actually it should be May 2021 to May 2022. I missed that. I'll type this. And they can request based on the fuel prices that were in effect at the time they submitted this of 10% on the fuel. However, they're only requesting a total increase of 10%, which would be 5.44% for the CPI and 4.34% increase to cover the fuel surcharge portion instead of the full 10% that they could request under the contract. And for a residential service, that raises the price of residential service from $19.90 to $21.89, which is $1.99 a month. Extra cart goes up 56 cents a month, and commercial hand collect cart goes up $2.19 a month. And Paul Dagereau with Waste Management is here. He was fortunate, he serves on a city council, and he was fortunate to not have to attend his meeting tonight, but give him a break, so he got to come here and tell you all why he wanted to come.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Paul Dagereau, Waste Management. We've been out here for about 4 years now, well, exactly 4 years now this month, so appreciate the partnership. Every year for the CPI adjustment, we come in and ask for the regular garbage and trash adjustment, and so we asked for that this year, but we do have the fuel surcharge adjustment that we can ask. We've never asked for it before, but the fuel's out of control. So we've been kind of eating that up until now. Well, when I went to do it, your strike rate is at $3. And so every 25% it goes up a percent. So it came up to 10%. So we're at 15.44% is what contractually we could ask for. I went back to our supervisor and said, we've got a good relationship with these guys. This is a little much to be asking. Went through the motions with them and got us to eat that 5.44% and just come with just a 10% request for y'all instead of the whole 15.44%. So that's what I'm here for tonight. Because of our relationship, I think, and because of the hardships, I think it would cost to go that extra, that big of an increase. We wanted to take that off and just come with this. But we have been taking that fuel already. We've been doing that for the last 8 months since it's gone up, and it is hurting our profit margin out here, and it's hurting we've had everything's going up for us, just like anybody. We went through COVID first, and then now this comes after that. So just like with any other industry, we're starting to hurt with this too. So we are requesting a 10% increase at this time.
And under the contract, the fuel rate portion is adjusted the other direction. So if fuel happens, if diesel drops back down closer to $3, then it would actually, that portion of the rate would drop down next year.
And next year when I come back here, we'll look at that. And if it is dropped down, we'll take that out of the increase or whatever. We'll take that out of it next year if it's come down. I'm sure.
Let's keep the positive vibes. Yeah.
Let's
It's
pray
going
that it
down.
comes down for everybody, but we will. It goes up or down. So if it goes back down, we'll take that out next year.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Degerow?
No.
Thank you all. As Craig said, we have our council meetings at the same time as y'all's, but this July, the first one we skipped, so luckily.
Nice.
Come be with
Didn't
you
miss
guys
out on
today.
anything. We appreciate
Otherwise,
it.
he'd be doing zoning cases.
No, I would be here either way. I think it's mine. And more important.
Okay, council questions?
So the residential increase will be the $1.99?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the commercial increases are all built in the table, but it's the 10% across the board, so everything will go to 10%. And that does include the billing and the franchise fee added to it. So the new rate would be $21.89. And just there's just a couple of you who were on the council when we bid this. When we originally bid these contracts, our provider at the time, Waste Connections, they were the highest bidder, and their bid without the surcharges added was over $20. So
4 years later.
yeah, we're 4 years now just getting close to what that company that we previously had bid at that time. So
I'm not sure we want to say that's in Paul though.
that's
Yeah, he's like, what?
no, he knows where his
Waste
price
Connect?
was.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that company was losing a lot of money on our account, and I think they were trying to make it up was why their bids were so high. But, which is part of the reason we talked about, do we lock in a rate or do we do a contract that allows for increases? Because I've been twice now in situations where the trash company serving the city was losing money on the contract, and it doesn't work out well for the city when that happens.
Oh, yeah. Stop caring.
I like to
When
make a
does this
motion.
contract come up?
We're starting the 5th year. There are provisions for two-year extensions, which we would hope council will consider because it's really hard to change the trash contract in the city the way it's laid out. But that is coming up for extension. Probably bring that to you sometime in the spring because we don't want to wait until the last minute. We don't want to do it. But
Okay.
we are a little bit unique as cities go. I don't think any of these folks, when they bid on our contract, really 100% grasp what it would be like to service Robinson because we have multiple streets around the city where they have to back the truck all the way down the street and come out because when they get down there, there's nowhere to turn around when you get into rural sections. So even when we first started they thought they could do it in so many days. We were getting the end of the week, and the Friday route was so big that they were not getting it done on Friday and not getting it done on Saturday, and we had to realign it.
Where city truck drivers could do challenges here. Can you get
Yes,
this
it's,
done?
it's a challenge. And
No,
like I
not
said,
really.
there's, and some of them are private drives,
Yeah.
but there's 8 or 10 houses, and they have to stop and back that
Oh,
way.
Brentwood, I mean, how many times have we had that conversation for
Yeah.
waste management
I have
over there?
a question / comment on this agenda item. Did we provide the CPI information from the Bureau?
No, he provided, but I verified it.
Very good. Well, my only question was, is there any way to condense that down into 10 or so pages versus the scrolling? It's silly.
Well, that's actually the
request.
fuel thing, and that was a smaller page. I
Was that
think when
you?
it got,
Was
I
that
think
us?
when it got converted for this, it broke it up. It must have had somewhere
It-
underlying.
I gotta be
was
honest, it lost me.
divided.
I lost my
It
fingerprint
lost
on
me.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't realize it. It was only a table, but apparently it truncated it.
Sorry, Paul, that was not for you, but I'm sure you would appreciate it on this side.
Yeah, there's
as
like
well.
15 pages. I didn't realize it had done that, but
Yeah.
that's actually the fuel charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
sorry.
I verified the CPI. See,
I saw no comments that it was staff verified, but then,
the previous two, see, this is where my efficiency gets me, because the previous 2 years, they submitted the letter with the the April CPI, and then by the time we get to consider this, May's come out, and each time it's gone down a little bit, so I called Paul and said, hey, Paul, you asked for this, and it went down. So this year he waited and he gave me the May, which was actually a little bit higher than the April.
Wait a
Smart
minute.
he figured
Yeah.
I'd like
out.
to give you more notice if I can, but it will, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it
Yep.
doesn't.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion. We approve. Where is it?
There's an ordinance number
Yeah.
there somewhere.
Ordinance 22-021, amending ordinance 2018-009 by increasing the rates for solid waste services.
Second. Mr. Hall? Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-021. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip back. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Willie's joint.
Ooh.
You get a long drive home. He didn't travel as far as Justin traveled today to get here.
Did you get off a plane in Waco and head straight here?
Yeah, aloha.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was gonna ask him when he come in, I thought his hair was
Oh.
white at first and thought he might have had a close encounter with a shark. The sun got it, huh?
Okay, item 16, consider possible action approving ordinance 2022-22, amending Article 6, sanitary sewer use regulations in Chapter 9 utilities of the City of Robinson Code of Ordinances.
This is me too. So back in 2020, City of Waco, after we changed the W. Mars contract, City of Waco reached out to us and said that because of the ownership change and everything, TCEQ was wanting them to amend their permit with the state, and as part of that, they wanted them to update their pre-treatment program regulations, as well as change all of the wording to show that they were now the system and everybody else were customers of the system. So they sent all that to us initially and said, as soon as the state approves us to, you need to go in and start amending your ordinance. So we went through that. We got the approval to start doing that in February of 21 because the state moved very slow, and submitted those to the City of Waco in April of 21, making sure that everything in our ordinance conformed to everything in their ordinance and all the sections matched and everything. They then had to send that all back to the state, who had to review it all and approve it and send it all back to them. And so we finally got that process done the end of May, and on June 7th, Waco sent a letter to us saying that everything was approved by them and PCQ, and we have 60 days to adopt our new ordinance. So that's what you're here tonight. All of the changes have to do with either pre-treatment requirements, which we currently have no customers in our city limits that have any pre-treatment process requirements, but it's very possible as WIF property develops, we'll start getting those. And, so that's why it's necessary to let this ordinance in place. And then everything else just identifies where they're the actual operator of the sewer plant.
Okay.
I'm not gonna answer any questions I can, but a lot of this is
I'll make a
very
motion
technical.
to approve ordinance 2022-22.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Lisa McLean got the second. We have a motion to approve this ordinance 2022-022. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 17, consider possible action approving resolution 2022-006-R, making a nomination to the Waco Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board and nomination to the Technical Advisory Committee. This has Craig's name on it, but I'll take it. I'm asked Craig to put this on the agenda today. Craig has been on the technical committee at the NPO. I have been serving on the policy board. It has been a bit more common that you see your directors in these roles. And I have missed 2 meetings, which I've not been very happy with. So I wanted to bring it to council, make the nomination to move Craig into the position on the policy board, and then Justin on the technical committee for the NPO.
Welcome back, Justin. Justin wasn't aware of that yet.
Hello.
See what happens when you're out of town?
Teach you to come on.
Which I'll make that motion to nominate Craig Levin on policy board and Justin French as technical advisory
I
committee.
second.
Any further discussion? No, Craig, you cannot argue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 18 is an executive session. Under the provisions of Government Code 551, the council will meet in executive session to discuss the deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city manager. Wish you could deny that last one.
You said the next one might be moved.
Yes.
We're back in at 8:26. Misty, what time we go in?
7:51.
That was a long discussion.
We had a lot to
Serious
talk about,
discussion.
though, yeah.
Which that brings us to item 19, consider possible action on matters discussed in executive session, city manager evaluations.
Like to make a motion to consider and possible action on matters discussed in, on the city manager evaluation.
I second, but also authorize the mayor to negotiate with the city manager. Is that wording good?
In the mini contract?
In the mini contract.
Was that what you motioned?
Yes, that is what I motioned.
You got that, Misty? All right, we have a motion authorizing the mayor to negotiate an amended contract with the city manager. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You can't oppose that one, can you?
Yeah, I can.
Don't you?
Yeah, I can.
I can choose not to sign it, but
Yeah, I
I would have
can.
already told you that if I wasn't going to.
Bert, you just licked the envelope.
Huh?
You.
What do you have, a sponge or something?
Yes.
I don't have a sponge. I don't even use a mail anymore.
Gosh. I just taste the glue. Like, I can already taste it for you.
That's why I'm gonna eat more candy.
You should. You should.
What, were you talking about candy?
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Oh, she's
How stressful
sharing.
was the
Fresh
meeting?
out.
You know immediately when your cup's empty, you're like, oh.
Fresh out.
It's my dinner.
Okay, so item 20 is a discussion for street construction regarding North Stovall, which I'm going to recuse myself for, according to Mike Dixon. Not quite sure why, but I'm going to do it anyway. And Craig can fill you in, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Janix.
Yes.
To handle this item.
She got on his bad side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Craig.
what drove this item? He reached out to me several weeks ago about this. He apparently has had several residents on Rio Benito that approached him wanting to know when something was going to be done on North Stovall, because apparently my predecessor had said the city was going to do something on North Stovall. And North Stovall is on our list of all of our streets, but it is not on the list for the next 2 rounds of streets. So I think he told the person that he would have the council discuss it. So the discussion is, do we want to consider moving North Stovall up on the list? A few challenges we have on North Stovall is we only have right-of-way currently from 2 parcels, or I guess technically 3 parcels, but one person owns 2 of them that have been platted. And then the reason the mayor had to recuse himself is he's actually looking at doing a development that will front part of Stovall. I think it'll be accessed off of Crow Creek, but it is adjacent to Stovall. So we'll get right of way there, but we don't have any. The rest of it is basically a prescriptive roadway. My understanding is it was once a wagon road, and there was an old wooden bridge down there that burned down years ago. Cars, I don't know, if maybe old cars drove across it, but so we would have to require all of the right of way. It is on the thoroughfare map as a collector, so it would have to be 35 foot of right of way on average from each side of the property. There is a stock tank really close, so we might have to jog the road a little bit to one side. But I think we've not done any preliminary engineering design or cost estimates, so I guess the question is, do we want to explore further on this? Do we want to consider moving this onto the list of existing roadway? Our current list for the next round or the round after that? Or
As far as like road conditions, is this one worse than?
it is a gravel road.
Gravel road. And it's in the worst of worst. Like,
So-
it's at the backside of.
How many houses are on it? Like,
Right
Is this-
now, there's like 8, but it feeds into Liberty Ranch.
Is it a busy, road?
It's not because of the condition of it. I
Yeah.
think the concern of the people in Rio Bonito is everybody in Liberty Ranch and all the people that are gonna be in the new subdivision he's doing are gonna they're traveling down Rio Bonito. So they're seeing increased traffic on Rio Bonito. So, but this road would have to be constructed. It's not a case of you
Yeah.
can just go pave what's there. It's not even 2 cars wide.
Yeah.
If you're
I was-
driving and somebody comes, you gotta pull off the side, let them go past you.
Well, I would say, I wouldn't want to put it, I wouldn't want to move it up priority on others, especially if it's just a short area anyhow. But I would suggest maybe we at least, maybe go put some gravel on it or something.
Well, we have gravel on it. We
Yeah.
blade it. I think we blade it
But it doesn't connect anymore.
every 6
So-
months or so. We'll put some more gravel, flex
Yeah.
base on it, blade it.
Lane.
It's not that it's not passable. It's just not.
So you're gonna
Ideal.
drop-
If you live down there and you have the choice of driving up Rio Bonito, which is a curb and gutter road, or
You're gonna go
driving
to
up
Rio
a gravel
Bonito, yeah.
road,
Flat Creek.
you're going to go up
It's
Rio Bonito.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I see. I have been on this road. Where's the new development gonna be?
It's going to be.
So you got to show us what that- Let's get some satellite imagery.
Hey, oh, I'm so.
It's going to be right here.
Yeah, that's that, and that's gonna be.
This house is here to be all the land. I think it's like 14 homes.
Mhm.
Okay,
And they're
where-
all huge.
Where?
Huge homes,
Yeah.
so we can't afford it.
Right here.
Well, no,
Oh.
And this is the land we bought for the reservoir site.
they're gonna be definite SF1.
Well, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of land.
It's
Like
10
how many
acres.
houses are
It's
gonna
like
be
10
on
acres.
it?
Like 14.
Oh.
But you have all this. You have all this stuff. Oh, man, that's
Yes,
easy.
yes. Yeah, I've been in that neighborhood. So, when is this neighborhood gonna start being developed?
Hey, you know.
I think the plats before the engineers can be reviewed now.
Next time it's
When that
contested,
happens, how long until they
if
break
you're not
ground?
gonna switch tags.
Depending on the builder?
6 months before
And-
it starts the infrastructure.
If they're not in the next 2 rounds,
So
what
the
does that
question
look
is this.
like? The next 2 rounds?
Well, it's looking more challenging because we originally thought we had the funding for the next 2 rounds. Now we are borrowing part of that funding for the WIF roads, or we're going to put that back. But even with that there, with the way the costs have gone up, I think it's going to take all the money we have left just to do the next round. That was like 6 streets, 6 or 7 streets.
For the next
And then
round?
we have
Or
another round there for
Newlands, so
that.
there's
we
the
have
gas
like 5 or
station.
6 there.
Oh, okay.
And then this
So
would
the-
have been possibly the 3rd round?
That gas station here.
So
Well, then after that, we still have
Yes.
Then it's up for discussion?
a whole lot of, there's a
Couple streets down.
big long list of streets.
Is there?
Yes.
For road repair?
So maybe- Let's see, when I first came here, we were talking about,
60 plus miles.
yeah, 50-something miles at estimated cost of about $31 million.
That was.
And we're,
And that was in that day.
we're gonna probably have knocked out about 5 miles of that when we finish this current project.
And the cost increases.
And the cost
is
is-
$40 million.
75%?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it may
Increase?
be higher than 40 million now.
It's crazy.
It-
So when we talk about Stovall, so this was a citizen request through the mayor to, because
Want to
previous
know
manager.
when the city's gonna pave the road, because Bob Cervinka told them that the city was gonna pave the road.
I've made this statement before, on another street, Mr. Howell lives on, where I believe that all the city streets need to be on the list. That, all of them need to be on the list. I get it, in most circumstances, developers are required to
And it
build that
is, it
infrastructure.
is on the list of streets that need to be done.
We're just talking about moving it up into
Yeah, it's
the
just,
current.
it's not, it's on the list of streets to be determined. You know, we have a list that we did, when you all did the bonds, I brought you the list of, all the current streets are on it, plus, let's see, what's supposed to be the next round? I think it's like, San Benito is on it, and
I wouldn't want to move it up a list with it being so densely populated. Like, I'd like,
Well, if we move it up, we'll have to move something else down.
Right.
Yeah, and if we moved it up, then like you said, with the engineering cost, and then we have to get it right away and all that.
Right, and which already
Yeah.
hasn't been done, so that's
It's gonna
added
cost
cost
us, yeah.
just to get them moved up.
And if we only had one, I could see if there was
And there's just a few houses.
40, 50 people complaining about it, you know, but just,
There's worse off roads with more
Yeah.
people that need it fixed.
So my question, previously, we've always allowed city engineers to set the order of streets based on condition of the roads, but also influenced by other infrastructure requirements and needs, and that list has always come that way. We don't-
That's, they have listed the streets based on how bad they are, but the fact is, we don't have a perfect ranking of, it's like, we have a handful of streets that are in decent shape that routine maintenance should take care of, and then we have a few streets that are, well, we need to do something right away, and then we have a whole bunch of streets that are just pathetic.
Yeah.
And to say, well, this street's 2% more pathetic than this street, so it's really, here's a grab bag of streets, and so what we've kind of done is, we staff have worked in engineering, we've gotten input from you all of, what streets have the most homes on them, what streets are being traveled by the most people, what streets are routes that people are using to get to schools, and we've tried to kind of work through it that way to where can we get these areas, which streets have been in the worst shape for the longest amount of time. So it's not been necessarily the engineers set all the roads, it's been kind of a
collective.
Yeah, because it's not like you can say, well, we're gonna rank the roads from 1 to 100. If we had 100 roads, we could say, well, we have 30 up here at the top, and then all the rest are tied for 100.
And I get it. So my thoughts are like that. We also do streets in a certain area, so the mobilization cost is shared. There's other factors that have gone.
Yeah, we have
This would be the
utilities, we
one-
do utilities simultaneously, and so you have to take into consideration when you're starting to do utilities.
No
is make
sense
sure
in
that-
the street if you can't do, if the sewer and the water line needs to be done and you can't fund that.
Yep.
You're gonna build a new street just to tear it up later so those type things.
Yeah, well, even if you can fund that, if this street needs to be, we're gonna put a new sewer line there, but if we're gonna connect it to a really bad sewer line in this street, well, we need to go ahead and do it until we get to a good sewer line, so.
So my thoughts are, I think Stovall, we need to examine the other infrastructure needs because I don't know who made a promise, and promises mean nothing in business. Contracts and agreements signed mean something in business.
Yep.
So do we move this ahead to make Burt's development happen, or are we gonna appease a couple of people, but at the same time also?
Well, I don't think Burke's development's contingent on this happening.
Well, I know it's not. He's
Yeah.
been planning this he bought the property
No.
before.
And there's no sewer, the homes on Stovall are all on septic. Now Liberty Ranch has sewer, his new development will have sewer, which will flow into the sewer that runs down Liberty Ranch.
So it's
down
gonna
to
connect,
the
they
W
won't
one.
connect into
Yeah.
Newland.
No, it'll connect into the W1 interceptor. It'll go south.
What's staff recommendation? Adding it, moving up, and why?
Did we ask
Staff would
staff?
not recommend moving it up.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. We're not moving it up.
Yes, there's people drive down Rio Benito to these other areas, but these other phases were part of that development to begin with.
So I don't. So people on Rio Bonito aren't worried about traffic on Stovall. I live in this neighborhood. I see some cars coming from Stovall off into this addition, but not many. I mean, it's
Everybody's traveling, and that's, I guess their complaint is there's too much traffic on Rio Benito, but.
Yeah, but what traffic study did they conduct? I keep
Yeah.
hearing people give me an opinion about what roads can and cannot do.
I stood outside.
And I would tell you, what measurement did you measure that with?
Yeah.
Because it's not
'Cause
accurate.
I don't think we put a traffic counter out there, did we?
Well, when we did, I actually postponed the development so that we could have a traffic study done, so that we can answer some of those questions for people, because traffic was a big deal, and the answer was yes. The road could handle it, and that was a road that, what's the other development? Why am I forgetting the name of the street?
Oh,
Seagal. Mr. Gall.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
so all I did was cost a developer money and pushed it 60 days down the road. That's all I did,
Yeah.
just to make somebody happy, because they don't like. Rio Bonito is in great shape, and nobody over there upset. If they want people off their street, they don't have that right to ask us.
You know, I mean, people just want less traffic on their street, but it's relative.
It takes time.
I mean, then they're upset with me because I'm one of the guys driving down their street, and I don't live on that street.
Well, but again, that street was designed,
It didn't-
all of that was phased, so from the
That was the
beginning,
main
that was
drag.
phased.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what Bob told, and Bob might have been planning on going over there and throwing a chip seal on top of the gravel, which isn't gonna encourage any more people to drive down there.
That,
because
that
the
road's
too
gonna need,
narrow.
a bunch.
It's gonna need to be constructed, you have to get all the right, you have to rip everything out,
Yeah, that's
stabilize the
gonna be a
subgrade.
lot of funding.
They
You
can
know,
just
and
add that
drainage.
to
Who knows,
the cost
if
of
it
those
stays on the
F1s.
list where it is, perhaps maybe we'll be lucky and things will turn around and costs will start going back down again.
I
you
don't
know.
think this needs to move up in order. I don't see, I'm not hearing a staff recommendation for it. I don't see a need. It's not gonna serve a greater good. Hey, my point earlier today in the other zoning case was towards, do you want people to help spread this cost out? You're gonna run off a development that could help fix your infrastructure. Do you wanna pay for that by yourself, or do you wanna let some other people help you pay for it? So, to me, I say,
Well, and I
let's
think
wait till
that's-
it develops to help that.
I think the time for doing this is in the future, and, you know, when he first reached out to me, it was like, any idea how we're gonna pay for it? We're gonna, you know, I mean, those were all issues that I raised at the time, because, you know, we kinda have a plan, we're moving with a plan, funding is important, you know, but we've also talked about, until we can get some significant commercial development, industrial development, and get some money in the TERS and let the TERS deal with, you know, if we get money in the TERS, that the TERS can pay for the infrastructure in all the parts of the city that's in a TERS, that frees up all those dollars to go to the other parts of the city that are not. But, you know, you kind of have to, I had a finance director, he used to talk about, we used to have meetings, is when you're trying to do stuff with the city, you head off in a direction, and we're going in a direction. And do we want to continue going that way, or do we, you know, he used to say, do we want to navigate, you know, using our navigational tools, or we want to navigate by the light of the passing ships? Because, you know, you can go move forward, or you can go over here and go back over here. And whenever something comes up like, well, we want to move this to a different place on the list, now you start talking about you're navigating to
Yeah.
those passing lights. We're now going to go over here, and
And then you're not
somebody
seeing-
is vocal over here and says, well, what about us over here?
Then you're not seeing a big
As soon as-
improvement.
As soon as we say, okay, we're going to move Stovall, then people on Juniper are going to say, well, what about us? And the people on Hicks are going to say, what about us? And the people, I mean, there's a lot of gravel roads in this city, and they say, what about our gravel roads?
Con and.
We don't need
Plan
any-
is, yeah,
There's a list.
Con,
There's a
all
whole
those
list.
roads out there.
We don't need any action on this, do we?
No, it was just want to see, but, you know, I think as, you know, and the goal over the next couple of years is to, now that we're kind of getting a handle on some of this stuff, is to put something more formalized longer term. Because, you know, we didn't do a long-term formal plan because we didn't have the money to do it.
True.
But, you know, as we see the tax base grow, if we see this industrial type stuff coming in, these kind of residential developments like that, we see the tax base grow, we can start planning further on it. As soon as you start telling people we're gonna do something,
Oh, yeah.
they're ready for it to be
Yeah,
done. And if
they
you-
thought it was done yesterday.
And if you don't have the means to do it,
Right.
then they're like, well, you said you were gonna do it. I mean, I still listen, I still get people every day, Bob Schminka told me, it's like,
I'll see if I can find Bob's number. And you want me to get Bert?
I mean, we're still, we have,
Get him.
you know, we talk about Cooksey and Tynes and all those streets that the city chip sealed under Bob. We've still got another 13, 14 years before those roads are even paid for, because we used 20-year debt money to do road work the last 5 years. You know, and we don't do that anymore either, so I mean, that's why it just, we need to kind of keep Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
so. My recommendation is we move the plan the way we have.
Yes, definitely.
I'll get,
All right, item 21, council member updates, requests for items to be placed on future agendas. Mr. Janix,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Burks,
Nothing.
Mrs. McLean,
Same.
Mr. Trollope, Mr. Rogers.
I have one discussion regarding the creation of a youth council. I think we have brought it up before, but
Midway or Woodway. Yeah, that was.
you had to say that. You had to say
No,
that.
no, no.
So
They were present at a meeting that we had
It was-
that was held at the
I
Woodway.
saw
Center.
them on yesterday. They were doing work. They had the T-shirts. Anyway, I
It
think
was
we're
cool.
missing an opportunity.
Yeah.
We're missing an opportunity. So discussion regarding the creation of a youth council.
You all have like documents and all that to provide?
I don't, no. For discussion, I mean, if it needs to be for discussion, I can. I mean,
If you just want to discuss, should we do it? I just, right now with everything that's going on, to pull somebody off and say, do a bunch of research on youth councils is, but if you just want to, do we have a meeting to see if we want to explore it further, or do we have some?
kind of what I'm asking, if it's not something that, because I don't want to have the discussion now. I'm going to ask my fellow council members to be a part of it as well, so, as much as they can.
Can you bring some paperwork on what you know of?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
they,
maybe find out what
that other
exactly they do.
organization
What they
is?
do and their involvement, this and the
Yeah.
other, and send that
Maybe
out.
That way we
Or
can
send
at
it to
least,
Misty and she can get it.
Maybe if somebody works for a city or knows somebody that works for a city that has something like that, they can maybe get some documents.
Is it not tied in with the school? Is it not tied in with the school at all? Is it? It is. It
It is not.
is not. It's sold the city. Okay, that's cool.
yeah.
And I will never, ever bring up
No,
No, I
anything
think it's a
again,
great
no.
idea. You just have accessibility to information.
It was just something really cool I saw. I mean, I'm like,
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, they
It's
were
just
at
like
the,
I
was
said,
it the TML meeting? Or
It's just,
yeah.
if we want to put it in the next agenda, if something could be included, otherwise probably need to wait till we get through budget.
and I don't have time for it. It's more of a discussion. I'm not looking for action, but I think it's something worthy of talking about and worthy of looking into. But I will bring documentation and provide that to Misty.
I have some letters from some youngins, that's for sure. Need to be shared, pretty cute. Okay, then we will adjourn at 8:48. Misty, you had something else for me to sign that's still in your envelope, or did somebody else? Huh?
You're not going nowhere.
Did Jeremy stop by and sign or something?
Asphalt running to the concrete.
I'm not leaving until I make sure I get it all.
Are you off?
Smoother drop off on the roads.
Yeah, this would be Kim's.
This side.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we missed last
You
time.
know, it's kind of going to be all
Sign,
years.
I mean, broken down for you and everything.
Yeah.
What do? I'll tell you to sign here.
Drainage out there.
And I've been cleaning this out with the tractor, and I've piled up rock.
Bye, we see you later.
And I see just completely flooded out. So most of that work I do just on the own. This is going to break, and it's going to get narrower and narrower and narrower on either side. They're going to end up driving right through the middle.
Send me a brief email describing the issue, everything you need. I'll just send it there and take pictures on my phone too. So, yeah, just send me something.
It's not
You
terrible.
got a couple pictures or whatever?
Yeah, I'll take some pictures.
What do you
It's
mean?
not terrible, but it will be creating more of a problem later on.
What am I missing here? Hasn't Jimmy Blatt been with us for like 25 years?
I
Destiny?
think maybe it's a different Jimmy White.
Who am I thinking of?